Welcome everyone to the weekly meeting of the Tacoma-Pierce County Coalition to End Homelessness. I think that's which meeting I'm in right now. And to get us started off, Rosemary, would you like to offer a welcome and invite new people to introduce themselves? And you're muted.
Happy to do that,
there you
Rob.
Go.
And just to say, if other people are interested at times in doing this kind of welcome, to let Rob know, because we really want to expand our ability to greet each other in ways that are important to do. I was thinking this morning about showing up as a concept to center us. And I've been impressed for as long as I've been part of this group with how willing people seem to be to show up for 2 hours every week and then to stay longer and keep discussing if they wish to. Sometimes we don't finish our planning until noon almost. So that's a lot of commitment to be showing up just to be here. And so the importance of showing up, though, I think we've also indicated in recent things we've decided. We've reinstated a race and justice committee to have us show up for racial justice in ways that are individual and agency-wide and for the coalition as well. And we are asking people to show up to help us meet this November 1st deadline to create safe sites for all. So showing up seems to be the order of the day. And I want to welcome everyone who has shown up today and to let you know, if you're new, just a little bit about how we operate. We do have a set of norms that we use as we talk with each other. And I'll put those in the chat if I can do that. There we are. And so the ones for Zoom, in case you haven't been here before, are to keep yourself muted if you're not speaking, and if you're doing other things or someone gives you a phone call, to take your video off as well, so we don't have the waving of hands that we talk when we talk, even if we're on the telephone. So those are two things. And so what I'd like to do just briefly here is to welcome anyone who is new. We'll have time later in the meeting to have you meet a few of us. But we'd like to know who you are, and just briefly, if you're associated with a group or if you're a community advocate, whatever your role is, just very briefly to, mostly for the Zoom things, we ask people to raise their hand with using the little raise hand symbol if possible. But while Rob can't always see all of that, especially if we are sharing a screen, sometimes you may just need to wave your hands and make a little bit of a ruckus so that we can make sure you get heard. So my invitation, though, is for anyone who's new to just unmute yourself and let us know who you are and if you are with any group or as an advocate.
Hi, I'm technically not new. My name is Lisa Kleiner and I'm with Inside Passages, Pierce County. I attended a couple of these meetings probably over a year ago when they were still in person. So,
well, welcome to this format, Lisa. It's really good to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'll jump in. Good morning, I'm Ben Miksch. I had been to some of these meetings previously, but it's been a little while since I've been here. I work for United Healthcare for my day job, although I've been kind of working in this on the advocacy side for a long time also. So I'm involved with a couple organizations up in Seattle and King, and I'm involved in some of the medical respite work down here.
Welcome, Ben. It's wonderful to have you here too. Anyone else? Well, if you are new to us and aren't able to speak right now, or would prefer to put some information in the chat about what your group is doing, or something you may be interested in having resources to help you show up the best way you can, do that. And I'll turn it back to you, Rob. Thank you all very much for coming.
Great, thank you, Rosemary. And one quick reminder about the chat. A lot of you probably know this, but some who are new may not. We do use the chat as a repository for information. So The chat ends up being edited and published along with the meeting video on the pchomeless.org website every week. So please use that. If you have information that you want to pass along, that's a good place to put it so you make sure that we have it for use later. So the first regular item on our agenda this week is our segment about this week on the streets. The purpose of this segment is to convey the latest information about what people are seeing going on with those who are living homeless across Pierce County. So feel free to raise your hand and give us an update about what you're seeing out there. And Wolf, I see your hand up.
Yeah, hey y'all. I haven't been able to make it to a meeting for a while. I've been taking some time off. But Food Not Bombs is doing our regular thing. We've had a bit of trouble lately. Just that, you know, after the heat wave in early July, we were able to receive a lot of support, and we were able to increase our distribution and output and had more volunteers, and we're able to get up to doing 6 to 7 days a week of distribution at camps. Since then, support has kind of fallen off, and we're pretty low on donations. So if you've been thinking about sending money our way, this is a good time to do it. Our Venmo's food FNB_Tacoma is the best way to send money if you want to support. So we've had to cut our days in half. We're down to doing 3 days, 3, sometimes 4 days a week at camps. We're hoping to get back to where we were before sometime soon, but we take what we can get. So other than that, there's been a lot that we're treating on camps. We had to take a few people to the ER recently. Some pretty gnarly stuff. Food distribution's going well. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, if you've been thinking about supporting us, please do that. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Maureen.
And thank you, Wolf. If you want to put your information about how folks can support in the chat, that would be great too. And Jeffrey.
I got out and about to a few encampments this last week. One of the things that was noticeable is an increased fear of people coming in and trying to hurt campers. One encampment I went to was surprised that people actually cared that they were out there, and appreciated the fact that I parked my truck and walk over and started talking to them. This is not a norm for them. Normally they get people yelling at them and honking their horn as they drive by. And this goes into probably something else, is we've got to do something more about advertising what we're doing. The campers don't know what we're doing, and neither do the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Monique.
Hey, so I did some water deliveries on Friday and went out the other day, I can't remember what day, and just doing some one-offs on water deliveries. There is an encampment, I don't know if you're aware of it, it's back in the bushes at 54th and, God, what is that street?
Is this in the Fife area?
509? Yes, in Fife, yeah. It's off of 54th, just near 509. You have to walk down a steep hill and then into the bushes. But pretty well run encampment. There's 30 people there. I delivered them some water, and they seem like they're doing okay back there, managing themselves. Went out and dropped some water over at the 705. I noticed though, I know that someone said the numbers had increased, but I noticed that there was a lot of empty spots where I had seen tents last time. So I don't know what's going on there. And then I saw more RVs on the street, parked on the street there than I have before, and vans there, and just delivered them some water, but same stuff as far as communication.
Great, thank you, Monique. Anyone else with updates about what they're seeing on the streets this week? All right, so you can also drop information in the chat if you're more comfortable with that regarding what you're seeing out there. The one thing I will say about the camp off 54th, I think that's an area where I've heard conversations about the construction that's going to happen for the Highway 167 extension that may impact that site. So I don't know of any direct timeline for when that happens, but that's just an awareness item. And I noticed that Wolf has said that they have served there. Yeah, Monique.
Can you keep me posted on that? The guy who's kind of in charge there is a veteran that I've been working with. And so if you keep me posted, then I can let him know so they know that they need to start figuring out where they're going to go. Because like I said, there's about 30 people out there.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely will keep an eye on that.
Thank you.
And Jeffrey again.
Yeah, this was unfortunate. I just had been at the encampment on 7th and Tacoma Avenue South. And there were 2 people that had just moved into that camp out of 705 directly because of the violence. So I suspect that the others will be doing the same.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be part of why people are leaving that site. All right, so once again, if you have additional information, please drop it in the chat. I see folks are doing that, so that's fantastic. And we will move on to our next item in the agenda. And I'll turn the floor over to Dean Teehee from where I work, Metropolitan Development Council. Dean is going to talk a little bit about the role of peer recovery coaches and what that resource can be used for. So Dean, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Get my notes up here. So my name is Dean Teehee. I'm a peer recovery coach here at MDC. Today we're talking about what we do here at MDC. And then, so I work in 2 locations. At the treatment center, I work here down in our detox facility, as well as the Center for Substance Use and Recovery. So how clients get to us, they seek out personal or patient services from our detox services. They can be referred to assessments and things like that to the center upstairs. Clients who or when clients are mandated treatment through the judicial system, they can come through our doors and get assessed and seeing what they need to get done. A client is referred to a therapist with weekly outpatient meetings. Myself and another peer recovery coach here, Paul, just our role is to keep engaged with the clients that we have upstairs, just with resources to the community, food banks, employment, 211 housing opportunities, and most of all, just having someone to talk to, like a listening ear. We also do outreach in the community by setting up our clients to success in their journey. Here in the chat box, I will give you my contacts to the center phone number. And that's basically a little bit of what we do here at the Metropolitan Development Council.
Thank you, Dean. Anybody have any questions about the service Dean's discussing? Yeah, Teresa.
So thanks for coming, Dean. And I guess one question I have is, how did you get involved in this peer piece? Is that available to other people? How do you go about becoming a peer?
So I became a certified peer counselor with the previous job that I had. Then I moved up into the area, and I'm now learning to become the peer recovery coach, which is mostly focused on substance use disorder, where peer counseling is more of kind of like the general mental health side of things, but it all kind of correlates into everything.
Well, congratulations on, sounds like you're getting promoted along. I also have a question about, you do the assessments. Do you work with anybody who is in jail, currently incarcerated? Do you do?
Not currently incarcerated, but I know I want to say we have people at the Pierce County District Court Resource Center for peer recovery coach from noon to 4. I'm not sure exactly if you can new on this, Rob, or not, but I know on Thursdays we have Paul, our other recovery coach, out there, just kind of doing the same services that we do here, kind of guiding them along to see what kind of services they can get.
All right, thank you.
All right, any other questions for Dean?
These are the chat box. Can a person refer themselves? Yes, that is true. We have the center is open now for walk-ins. If you show up, we can. So Paul's usually there from 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. to noon. They can walk in and start the paperwork and usually get assessed that day. Address, it's 721 Fawcett down here in Tacoma.
Great. All right, so thank you very much, Dean. And if other folks have questions, do feel free to drop them in the chat. Maybe Dean can hang around and respond there a little bit. And thank you very much. All right, so our next item on the agenda, yesterday was the most recent meeting of the Pierce County Shelter Workgroup. And I wanted to give an opportunity to Mike Boischer to talk about what was covered during yesterday's meeting and sort of help cue us up for breakout conversations that can help inform that work. So Mike, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you, Rob. And I think a few people on this call was in the room with us yesterday. James was on the call. He's part of the team. And so, James, I'm going to let you jump in there like you did yesterday and to help me along here. So I was really impressed with maybe an eye-opener with the data that was provided. Amon is, I don't know how she gets the data, but she really provided some insight. And again, it's, it's priority. When we're looking at the number of homeless people, it kind of went from Tacoma to Puyallup to Lakewood, which is kind of what we understood already, but it was a confirmation of what we known, and it was with data. And so we spent some time on that. The other thing was I think in one of our first meetings, we had issues with definitions. So we created a definition page of a number of I think 4 or 5 different types of shelters. Okay, and so we had that definition. Oh, before I go any further, I think Maureen, you sent out an email yesterday that had our meeting agenda and all the data on that. I'm not sure if everybody got that, but we might want to send that out to our group again. So that was kind of rabbit trail, I'm sorry. Also, Amon showed us geographically, a lot of us like the topographical stuff, and it was really, really interesting. And it kind of brought a perspective of there's not a lot and there needs to be more, okay? And so then we talked about the locations and type of recommendations. That's going to be kind of our breakout session that we're going to have. I just need a little more feedback. I'm pushing, I think it was Joanne. Somebody was talking about the hospice stuff, and I pushed that into the meeting. So that is a part, and some of the identification of the homeless locations, the respites are part of those. So that was good for me to understand that. Let's see, the other thing, I lost track of my time here. Sorry, Rob. One of the things that I want to push out today is we launched the survey this week, and I would like that sent to, we'll put it in the chat here. And if you come in contact, Jeffrey, I know you're always with somebody. And so if you come in contact with them, we have 3 different options, okay? One is on your iPhone, you can fill it out for them. One is the paper form, okay? And one's on the internet. So Garrett has covered all those bases. So what we're trying to do is collect the data. Some of the questions are similar, but again, it's confirmation of what we're doing, all right? Every time in our meeting, everybody says, wow, November 1st is right around the corner. Yes, it is. And so, but I think, and James and maybe Maureen, I think we're right on track. We're pushing as hard as we can right now. Again, it's data and confirmation. And some people like myself, you know, I've been told, man, you can get paralyzed with data. And so sometimes you got to stop and just do it. And let's see, I think I'm going to stop there. James, did you have anything off the meeting?
Not much else, but for those that are kind of new to this group or new to this conversation, that we are looking to try to create enough safe shelter space that's dry and sanctioned by November 1st to cover everybody sleeping on the streets that are interested to have access to it. We've had a little discussion about the number. We started off the beginning of the work group, you know, a couple of months ago with the number 1350 of people who like the shelter shortfall, and now that number's almost doubled just from our data collection folks to 2,400. And there's a little question: should we shoot for that number, or is everybody going to take shelter? And so should we look for less? Should we shoot for that number and be ready to do more? And some discussion too about layering our approach with like opening a couple of shelters quickly and then get those full, and then add some more and then get those full. Part of this also has to do with like which areas of the county are going to be supportive of this work and allow programs to open up. And then once that is established and defined, then who's going to open them up needs to be answered pretty quickly. So hopefully I'm not quite as like optimistic as Mike is, unless there's some group behind the scenes doing a lot of work that they're just not sharing with us at the county level or something. That would be my ideal work, because there was a couple of mentions of bringing it back to the county or the going to the work group, or I'm not sure that is, but I'm assuming there's a county initiative that's even behind the work group that's working on the shelter. So I don't know, I feel good about the conversations, but I'd feel better about a couple of actions getting done.
Good, thanks. So that's kind of the 50,000 foot level, Rob.
Okay. Maureen, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I did watch most of the meeting yesterday, and everybody should know I thought that Mike and James really represented us well. I know James is representing the continuum of care, but he's also representing us, I think. I'm in James's camp. And Rob's, it's like, okay, now we're finishing week 11, or we have 11 weeks left. And unless I want to see some timelines, how many people are going to be trained to operate these places? Who's going to train them? When does that start? I mean, I got real concerns about getting to the end of this and people sort of throwing their hands up and saying, well, we tried. And I got even more concerned when I read the title of the agenda, which was addressing homelessness, not ending. So I went to Garrett and said, wait a minute, what happened here? And he said, oh no, that was an error. Okay, well, maybe it was and maybe it wasn't, but we got to watch stuff like that. So
Well, thank you to all of you for kind of setting the stage. What we hope to accomplish today, what we've actually been trying to do in this whole series of weeks leading up to this November 1st date, is to try to find ways that the coalition might be able to lend some thought and additional information that could be helpful for the work group. Both for the work group that's directly related to shelter, as well as for the effort to build a comprehensive plan to end homelessness. That's the broader effort where Maureen represents the coalition on that particular committee. But today, one of the things that was part of the discussion yesterday was what do people think should be in the mix of types of shelter that would be needed in order to actually make the impact on the ground and end street homelessness by November 1. So I thought after a conversation with Mike last night that it might be useful to spend a few minutes during our networking breakouts this morning to kind of collect our thoughts about what mix of things we think should be in there in terms of should we do more congregate shelter? Should we do more tiny homes? I know should we do low barrier tent encampments? What should be in that mix in order to actually create the continuum of shelter that would be useful and attractive to those who are currently living on the streets? And yes, Sally, that 2,400 number is an estimate of the county-wide number of people who are not currently in shelter. The overall number for homelessness that was calculated is actually 3,400, but if you include all of the shelter spaces that exist now, shelter, and I think Garrett said also transitional housing, those pieces, that's about 1,000 units. So that reduces the 3,400 number down to 2,400 as being the gap. So the question that I'd like us to consider in the breakout rooms is, what do we think needs to exist in terms of the mix of shelter options? And we can talk about places as well. This is really an exercise to try to capture your thoughts. Have somebody in each breakout group take down notes and put them in the chat. And it's also an opportunity. We take 15 minutes in these meetings every morning in order to kind of get to know each other better. So does anybody have any questions before I break us into groups of 5 or so folks? All right, so what we will do is we will spend the next 15 minutes in small groups discussing that question. And let me set up our breakout rooms. Oops. Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully that was a good conversation. As a reminder, please post your thoughts from the breakout conversations into the chat so we can make sure we retain that. Perfect, Haley. So I'm presuming that was probably too short for what we needed to have the conversation about, but that's the nature of the beast, I think. We're just hoping to try to move the ball along here. So appreciate that. Any closing words for us, Mike?
No, our conversation was very good. Did get some notes. So like Rob says, get it in the chat and I will push this up the line. And Maureen, I heard you. I'm one of those that give me a timeline, give me a timeline, give me a timeline. So I got it.
And Danielle, I see your question in the chat about a new tiny home facility in Tacoma. You might be referring to the site that's that the city is moving forward with at South 69th and Proctor Street, which is actually going to be, I don't want to speak for the city folks, and they're on the call so they can talk about it more later, but it's going to be a site where they're moving the tiny houses from the McKinley Thames site to this new site at South 69th and Proctor. But they're also talking about adding potentially another 20 tiny homes to the total number at that site. So
Can I make
that's
a really,
probably what you're referring to.
That's
I love
that's right.
clarification.
That's right, Rob. That's exactly right.
Okay.
I just want to make
Perfect.
a little clarification in our use of the language tiny homes. As when we look at the shelter committee, we have to do a little bit of work on definitions because we're not all using the same things. The tiny homes, for example, that are in boarding veterans homes that have foundations and structure and toilets and things like that are considered tiny homes. Like they are permanent structures and are homes with addresses and are considered permanent residents. The ones that we're referring to in our shelter project and the ones that Lehigh operates are what we call micro shelters. They don't have a foundation, they don't have toilets, they do have privacy and four walls, and they are built to sustain longer term with a bed and some access to electricity, light, heating, whatever. But the actual structure is not a tiny home. It is considered a micro shelter. Just for clarity's sake, we do believe tiny homes are an absolute solution, and we believe micro shelters are a solution, but they're not the same solution and they don't have the same goal.
Yeah, I appreciate that, James. I know the two things do get conflated with each other a lot, so definitions matter. All right, so let's move on to the next item on our agenda, and that is a advocacy update from Maureen Howard. So Maureen, you have the floor.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. And so we're going to do it a little differently this morning. So this morning is more about how can we impact what's going on. And here's my list. One, we've got the Shelter Plan Workgroup. We've just spent some of our Friday agenda time on that, responding to a question. We can argue definitions all day long. It's useful if our definitions match up with the rest of the known world. Right now, they're not going to. But there are a couple of key things. One, we've talked about the sense of urgency that some of us feel that group needs. Also, that some of us believe it's important that they maintain the public recording of the meeting. Everybody is not available at that particular time, but there are people who would like to know exactly what happened. And so that's very important. And then to continue giving Mike Oyster and also James Pogue information, either as an individual or representing your organization, on with suggestions, concerns, comments as they continue to move forward. The second thing is that we've got the comprehensive plan to end homelessness. I'm on that steering committee. I don't know if there's anybody else if Clarissa's on, she's on that committee, I think. Not sure who else is on this meeting, who's on it, but Lamont Green represents the continuum of care on that committee. And Courtney Chandler represents Associated Ministries. Richard Berghammer represents the faith community. And so there are others as well. So one of our concerns, we do not want a staff-driven product that we meet 2 hours a month to respond to. There are several of us who believe that we should be engaged in this now that the county has hired Garrett full-time as a project manager, as a county employee, now that the technical assistance collective, I think it is, and Bree Williams is the facilitator, that there are many of us who want to be engaged more than 2 hours a month. We were given a preliminary kind of outline of what a plan would look like, and I rewrote it and prioritized housing. We don't end homelessness without housing. Services are critically important, but if we don't have housing, we just have good services and people are still where they are right now, which is out on the streets. We also need the recognition of the unfunded system and the system that is not funded by Pierce County government or by the city of Tacoma government. These are real programs, real housing programs, real services programs, real paid employees, real volunteers, and they make up our entire system. And we've got to recognize that. And then, okay, so here's something really good that some of you know about. So there's a progressive organization called Washington Fuse. And one of their senior organizers, Carrie Bull, contacted me, and she has some availability from now until the end of the year. She wants to work on housing and homelessness. They already work on a list of issues, and they're focused mostly on electoral politics. That's not what Carrie's talking about. What she's talking about is how can she be useful? How can she use her skills and her experience to help us advance housing and homelessness? And so she's met with our the Coalition Steering Committee. She's going to meet with Safe Streets. She wasn't able to join the Housing Committee yesterday, but I'll brief her separately. And so these are the things, the Housing Committee did come up with a list of issues that we felt Carrie could be useful on. But here are some things that I was thinking about where we have a real gap. Okay, Maureen's rule number one for advocacy is you show up. Okay, number one. That's where we have a gap in showing up, not for Friday morning. I mean, 60, 100 people show up for Friday morning. It is a question of showing up when a specific issue needs to be handled by a specific elected official or a specific employee someplace or organization. That target could be an individual who's got a vote on a county council resolution. It could be an organization that we'd like to have them expand, maybe, you know, that kind of thing. Could be a whole range of things. We are not talking about about getting candidates elected. We are not talking about that at all. All right. Once they're elected, though, how do we help them do what we need them to do for the people that we represent? So in the last legislative session, because Pierce County ranks so high at the state level in terms of influence, we've got the Speaker of the House coming out of the 27th district. And I'll bet half the people here either live or work in the 27th. All right. So we have access the rest of the state doesn't have. But when the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance would come out and say, can you get people to contact Conway and get them to vote yes on this particular budget item that increases the amount of money available for homelessness or for housing? We didn't have a list of who's in the 29th and was willing to be contacted. Indivisible Tacoma has that kind of list. Other people have those kinds of lists. We didn't have it. And so many times I think I use the entire listserv instead of being able to target. So one of the things that I think we need to do is to ask Carrie to help us figure out how to get the people who want to be contacted, where they live, where they work, or where their organizations are located, and are willing to receive the information when we need to reach out. And we're in a hurry, like something needs to be done a day before a hearing or something. So that's one thing at the state level. We got lots of time to prepare for the state. And I hear people all the time, they'll say, oh, I know so-and-so. Oh, I know so-and-so. So we have an opportunity to have Carrie help us organize what we know better. All right, that's one thing. The second thing is we are not going to end street homelessness, and we are not going to end homelessness in this county without having a really forceful engagement with our elected officials. And I know if you're working for a nonprofit, you've got to follow the policies of your nonprofit. I know if you're a government employee, you've got restrictions by virtue of your employment. Those are just facts. But you also have an ability, except for the feds, they're different, but you have an ability as an individual to exercise your rights as an individual. So part of what we need to be able to do, the 21 jurisdictions across this county, and somebody on this call knows some elected official in at least half of those jurisdictions. You go to church with them, you shop with them, they belong to your PTA, your parents know them, you know somebody on the school board, whatever it is, you know somebody. And so this is our opportunity to ask Carrie to help us figure out how to best communicate with these folks. When I started with the coalition, and I remember asking how many people had been to their state elected officials' offices, almost nobody raised their hands, not even the local office. I'm hoping if I ask this question in 3 months, every hand would go up. Some of you belong to organizations that don't align with us all the time, all right? But you are the bridge. We are not going to house people without housing units. And Mark, I'm looking at you. Okay. I mean, that's the reality of it. We have got to have the units. How many units? All right. You heard 2,400 people. How many units? I don't know. Maybe that's 1,800. I don't know. But we've got to have the units. And we're not going to get them out of this room except as we get them as they already exist and they become available to us, either because we have the relationships to support the people going into them, we have the funding to cover the rent, and we have the ability to acquire anything that comes on the market so we don't lose any units. So I'm just thinking that that's the conversation that I want to have with Carrie Bull. I'll invite anybody, I'll put it out on the listserv, anybody who wants to have a, sort of a first time conversation with her about where we go forward. We'll get the chat, looks like it's exploding, which is wonderful. And so that's the thing, is we've never had political will around ending homelessness. We have it now in those two resolutions. We have a city resolution, we have a county resolution. Those words matter. And I don't want to come to November 1st and have somebody throw up their hands and say, well, we really tried, but we couldn't do it. Or the same thing, December 31st. I want to get there and know that we did what we set out to do. So we gave up, the coalition gave up the leadership on doing these plans when the county said, oh, it's our job, we'll step forward. So now it's our job to make sure they have the support they need from the county council and the city council and all of those councils and all of those mayors. And we've got all their names, we've got all their information, we know where they stand jurisdiction by jurisdiction on affordable housing. So this really is a moment, I don't know that I never envisioned it, and I want us to use it really wisely. So thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Lots of clapping. So any questions or comments for Maureen before we move on to our government updates? Okay, please feel free to use the chat. Jeffrey, I see your hand up.
Maureen, I couldn't agree with you more. When I was working on HB 1754 on churches' rights to perform their own ministry, it was because I live in the 27th district and the newly elected House member let me have her ear. And because of that, HB 1754 moved through the House and the Senate. But it was because of that connection within my district. It can't be stressed enough that that kind of advocacy is absolutely essential.
Great, thank you, Jeffrey. At this point, let's, if you do have additional comments or questions, please drop them in the chat. We're going to shift over to government updates, and we will start with City of Tacoma. So I saw Clarissa on the call earlier. Do you have anything to add, Clarissa?
Rob, I got a few things, but to continue on the conversation earlier, yes, the city has, we are moving forward with the mitigation stabilization site at 69th and Proctor. And that is a micro shelter, to follow up with what James was clarifying. So yes, that's happening. That's exciting. We're going to add capacity with that. We also have cooling centers, Lighthouse Senior Centers operating as a cooling center during inclement weather. NCS is also using Lighthouse as a distribution point for water. Their address is I could put this in the chat, 5016 A Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98408. There are hygiene stations. The city is currently operating a temporary hygiene station at 8th and Yakima on private property in I-705 and A Street on WS.owned property. These temporary stations provide restrooms, hand washing stations, trash removal, and 24/7 on-site security. If community members have questions or concerns about either of the hygiene stations, they should contact 250-250-1766. More information on hygiene stations is available at our website. I will put the link in the chat. And then, of course, our rental assistance portal is still open. You guys could find information at this link in the chat. And lastly, I will be transitioning back to the Office of Equity and Human Rights on August 16th. So next Friday, I will be here to present on the homeless strategy to you all next Friday, but that will be my last coalition meeting as NCS. The city of Tacoma, it has a lot of several anti-racist initiatives and racial equity action plans that are being implemented in every department across the organization. So I'm gonna go back to the Office of Equity and help them do that work next on August 16th, that's next Monday. I will still continue to work through the homeless strategy that I did share with some of you. I'm going to present to you guys next week. Going to continue to hold focus groups in the community. Some of you may have received emails from me. I'm still going to work on incorporating all that info and developing the final report for that. I will also keep working on Beacon Center and working on building relationships with our providers to ensure that we have long-term services in there. And we're hoping to solidify something more permanent in the next month or so. So I will also continue that work as well. And I'm still chairing the COC, so I'll still be around. I'll just be doing this work from the Office of Equity. And Maureen, I've seen your hand up for a while. Yeah.
Clarissa, I want to clarify, if you would please. You said the Lighthouse Center was going to be the distribution site for water. I thought the stability site opened when Lighthouse opens, so the outreach workers go to the stability site for the water to take out.
You know, Maureen, I could double check and clarify. This is the last update I received. The last update I received, it was at Lighthouse. I haven't heard it being somewhere else, but I can't double check and see.
If you could get back to us still this morning, because that's really important for people. This is the last time we'll be together before the temperatures hit the 90s on Wednesday. And my understanding was the Lighthouse was a distribution center for water for shelters and cooling centers, but outreach workers still go to the stability site to pick up water to take out.
Yeah, I could go back and double check.
That would be great.
That was given to me. It's not the focus of work I do over there. But this is the last update I received. So yeah, I could go back and see if things have changed since then.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And I do see a question in the chat from Teresa. If you know who will be representing the city at these meetings going forward after next week.
I'm not sure. I know that Tegan still will be at these meetings. She will probably get help from another colleague. I know that we've suggested some folks from our street outreach team. So we don't know for sure who will be representing, but we will still have representation here at this meeting and still provide weekly updates to you all.
Great, thank you. And then I also saw a question from Sherry in the chat. I don't know if you see that.
They have not hired for my position. I believe that they will be posting soon. I know that there has been some internal work going on about like what is evaluating what is best needed out of a program manager position at NCS. And I do know that they will be probably releasing that position and hiring. And I may be helping with that. I may not, I'm not sure. But no, as of now, no.
All right, thank you very much. So let's shift over. If folks have other questions for the City of Tacoma, please use the chat to post those, and Clarissa will see those. I'm not sure, I know that Valerie is going to join us a little bit later in the meeting with an update on the rental assistance program, but is anybody else on the call from Pierce County that needed to offer updates? All right, I don't see Jeff Rogers on the call at the moment, so we'll come back to Valerie to hear about the rental assistance program around 10:30. And is there any update from the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department?
This is Adam Reichenberger here, the Housing Policy Coordinator. I'm also giving a moment for anyone else from the Health Department who's on the call to speak up. I'm not sure if anyone is. I can't see the attendance. No real update here other than our update channel is shifting a little bit. I will continue to be a part of these meetings. However, the updated information you were receiving from Rihanna, I don't have access to that channel right now. But as I was speaking with Maureen about last night, as we get that figured out, and even after we get it figured out, if there's ever something you feel like you're missing from us, or you wish you knew more about, or needed more information on, I want to make sure that none of that information gets dropped. So just as this transition happens, let me know what you need, and I'm happy to continue working to get that for you.
Perfect, thank you, Adam. And this is not on the agenda, but Lori, I wonder if you wanted to kind of talk through with folks the interaction between the CDC moratorium that you posted in the chat, so that we can better understand what that interaction is between the new CDC moratorium to keep people from being evicted nationwide, and how that interacts with the what the current understanding is, how it interacts with Washington State's bridge resolution that's underway right now.
Well, I can tell you we don't really have any uniform guidance on that right now because, as you know, this is all very confusing. We're waiting for the state to come out with something, but what I put in the chat is what Mark, our managing attorney, put together, and I'm going to send that to Valerie. She'll send it out in her big email that goes out to rental assistance providers. But basically, what the CDC is trying to do is the same thing that the governor's bridge proclamation is trying to do, is just give people more time for the rental assistance to get out. I mean, it's still taken a couple of months here in Pierce County, but we're way ahead of the rest of the country. It's a big mess. There's billions of dollars and it's not getting out to people. So that's basically what it's all about. And the difference is this only applies to non-payment of rent cases. I think this is confusing for people. As of the end of June, the moratorium ended, all the moratoriums ended in terms of just evictions, period. We're only talking about non-payment of rent, and we're just trying to give time for people to get rental assistance. So that's the first thing. There are some differences. This is going to come into play for people who can sign the certification, give it to their landlord. The certification is available. It's also still being worked on, but I think they have a final version on Washington Law Help. It basically just says, I can't can't pay rent because of COVID. If you evict me, I'm going to be homeless. Hand it to your landlord. That's that's what needs to happen. So it will help some people who have not gotten rental assistance yet, who need something that they can, give to their landlord. They're going to be covered until October 3rd, which is basically the same period of time that the governor's proclamation is in effect as well. If anybody here who's actually an attorney who works in this has other comments, that'd be great. But that's the clarification that we have right now.
Great, Lori. When communication is actually available related to this, can you send it to the coalition mailing list?
Yeah, for sure. We'll put it in kind of a format that we can hand out to people.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, so I think that covers our updates from the government folks. The next item on our agenda, we wanted to talk through how things worked with the water distribution with the most recent heat that took place over the weekend, and kind of do some conversation about the expected heat wave coming again late next week. I'm seeing the information in the chat about the clarification about how where water will be distributed. But Maureen, any thoughts that you want to share about what worked and what could be better?
As far as I know, the last I heard from Linda Stewart, only 4 groups picked up on Friday. Nobody else picked up over the weekend. I had hoped Jeff Rogers would be on this call to update us from the county. I reached out to the city and county earlier this week when I saw the 90-degree forecast for Wednesday of next week. I heard nothing back from either. I asked both to report today. Clarissa told us of the change. I have no idea how people get water from the Lighthouse Center, what their hours are, how much will be available, how it will be organized. I have no idea. Linda Stewart is out of the office, and I've put a message into the acting director, and I know that Clarissa has gone back to her as well. But we need to know, the stability site worked for us. We need to know exactly what time people can pick up, and if it's still going to operate the way it did before, which was that you take what you need for the day. And it doesn't matter who you are or what organization you're with. If that part isn't available 24/7, then we're back to square one, basically.
Well, let's wait and hear some solid information back from Clarissa. I know she's going to chase that down. So, and if we can't get that during today's meeting, then maybe we can get that and distribute it through the email list after today's meeting. Jan?
There was no water delivered for our outreach teams and at the Puyallup Salvation Army, and the water delivered to the Puyallup Salvation Army. The hours are posted on their website. The address is on their website, their phone numbers on their website, and it is available to any outreach team or anybody that is serving those who are living homeless, city or county. But I'm wondering if we should order another pallet for next Wednesday, because I believe the weather is getting hot next Wednesday, and that was used as a site. Should I do that?
Yes.
Order some more for, yes? Okay,
Seems
so
like a good idea.
Next Wednesday, we'll have at least 1 pallet of water delivered to the Puyallup Salvation Army.
Thank you, Jan. And Maureen?
And the supreme irony of this right now is that the coalition is going to receive the City of Tacoma's Compassionate Tacoma Award for our collective work in the heat emergency the end of June, along with Niagara Water. And that our ability to keep people alive rested on the fact that we had a 24/7 distribution site, that we got water to it, that Niagara Bottling got water to it, that anybody could access it and take it out 24/7. And I get 2 minutes to respond. And I think I might, depending on what we hear back from the city of Tacoma, may have to change my comments.
Well, I would assume hopefully we will have better information later today, and so we can figure out what the system will be if it's shifted to Lighthouse.
The other thing is that on August 11th, Jan Runbeck, Monique Brown, and I will represent the coalition in the Pierce County Department of Emergency Management after action review on the June event. That's at 1 to 2:30 in the afternoon. I still don't have any confirmation on whether that's a in-person or Zoom, but, and I've asked, but I will send out the registration email, and anybody can, it's a public meeting, anybody can register to attend. You just don't get to talk. And if they don't do Zoom, then there won't be a chat. I don't know if they'll do a chat anyway. Some of the Pierce County meetings have a chat, some don't. So, yeah. Anyway,
all right.
Thanks.
Yeah, we have some more information to sort out. So there's always something. So the next item on our agenda is an opportunity to hear about the work of the Safe Sites for All group. A number of us on the steering committee just got an email that Colin's actually away and not able to join us today. So Jan, do you have anything to share about the Safe Sites for All folks?
Yes. Just because Colin is physically absent, he is still with us in spirit and text. So keep those referrals happening. We want referrals. We do have space available. Contact Colin. We also have business cards available so that if you see a car or an RV or a van that, hey, Jeffrey's holding it up. Slip that card that Jeffrey's holding up underneath the windshield or pass it to somebody who may need the use of a safe site to park. And also, I think Teresa is offering her front porch as, yes, she is. If you want the cards, go to Teresa's front porch. She will post her address. Pick up a dozen or 2 or 3, whatever you feel that you can share with your friends to pass out to cars that look suspiciously like homes for some folks. And on Monday, we will be talking about these cards and how well it's working. But also on Monday, we're going to talk about the recent violence at 705. We would like anybody to come who has either experience with that or sentiments about that. That is not a safe site, right? I mean, isn't that where we're trying to prevent is what happened at 705? So that is an example of how things don't work if they are not, if they're not on anybody's radar. So join us on Monday noon. You can register at the website, pick up your cards at Teresa's porch. Call, text Colin if you have anybody that might qualify for a safe parking site. And with that, I'll shut up.
Thanks, Jan. I see Jeffrey with his hand up.
Yes, we just admitted another car to our safe parking site at Tahoma Universalist Unitarian Church. There are now 3 campers there, and everything is going quite well.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Let's see. Okay, and there, Clarissa just dropped an update in the chat. regarding water distribution.
Clarissa, thank you for taking time to do that. Yeah, this is, folks, this is no change. All right, this is how the city handled it in the last heat event. That Lighthouse Center was for distribution of water to shelters and the day centers and the cooling centers, and outreach workers went to the stability site, and that remains. So Clarissa, thanks a lot for handling this for us.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And it's great when we can all work together and do these updates quickly, even in a live setting like this. So thank you. All right, so let's move forward with the, if we're prepared to do updates from any of the coalition committees that need to be shared with the full group today. So those who head the coalition committees, anything to update for the group? Rosemary.
So I'm very happy to be able to announce, and thank you very much, Garrett, for putting up the information on the website about the Race and Equity Committee. Appreciate that. We are going to meet at 3 to 4 p.m. on Thursdays for a little while. We don't know how long we'll be meeting that often or at that hour. And if someone is interested here, there's now the ability to sign up on the listserv for information, to receive information about the meetings. So do that, and I'll figure out what I need to put on there. But Monique and I will be co-facilitating the group for a while. We'll see how that goes, and we hope others will be involved in that as well. We're going to be looking this week, in case you're interested, at the resources and data that the coalition has available to it because of our extensive archived materials. We know the importance of collecting data about ourselves if we're going to try to develop plans to hold ourselves accountable at all kinds of levels. So many of us are new to this coalition, and we want to honor the history and understand the history before we plan for ways we might increase our ability to be standing up for racial justice. So that will be Thursday coming up next week from 3 to 4 p.m. And look at the website under committees at the top menu item, and you'll be able to find the Race and Justice Committee there to join us if you're interested. The other committee that's involved that I don't think we have a set group for yet, it's a governance works group. And this group has been charged with helping the coalition come to some proposals that we might accept about any changes we might want to make in the kind of group we are. We are an informal open table without a strong list of ways that we operate that are clear to everyone. And while that's been a wonderful opportunity for people to show up, we also have questions raised that sometimes aren't able to be answered in those kinds of settings. So this is a small group. Again, if you're interested in talking about structures and coming up with alternatives, whether it's about finance or how we make decisions, the governance work group is meeting. We will be meeting on Monday, this coming Monday from 3 to 4. My email is in the agenda today as I did the welcoming, so you could let me know if you'd like to receive information about that for this coming meeting. Otherwise, hopefully we'll set up something on the listserv, but we're not quite ready for that. I think that's all I have.
That's a lot, Rosemary. Thank you. Any questions or additions that folks wanted to share?
Rob, I can do an update for the Workforce Development Committee.
Sure, definitely.
Awesome. I'm driving right now, so I'm staying off camera. So we met with Associated Ministries last week, and we are good to go on the collaborative effort in Hire 253 with Project Homeless Connect. We really couldn't be more excited. This has, I think, been the dream since Hire 253 was first created, to really partner these two amazing events together and help out those experiencing homelessness and facing homelessness as much as we can through this collaborative effort. So super excited about that. The event will be on September 17th in People's Park from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We are still looking for a lot of volunteers. We figure about 100 to 120 volunteers to pull this large event off. You can sign up as a volunteer at Associated Ministries website. I was trying to pull that up, but hopefully in the next few minutes, I'll be able to put that link in the chat. As for the Hire 253 portion, we're working with WorkSource, Workforce Central, Goodwill, of course, to bring in employers that are offering like current livable wage opportunities, maybe sign-on bonuses, low barrier access to employment. Of course, Vallejo Vocation will be there. And anyway, so that should be a pretty amazing employer turnout. We're working on some ideas right now for Power as how to help individuals apply directly when they're at Hire 253. So we have some options we may need. If anybody else has access to like one of those Power boxes, that would be great. Otherwise, we may have the funding to be able to just purchase a couple of those and have laptops on site so people can just do on-the-spot applications, and then we would be able to provide assistance. So again, I'll put my email in the chat as well. Always feel free to reach out to me for if you want to participate or your organization wants to participate in Hire 253 or Project Homeless Connect or both. Please let me know. We'll get you on that list, and just really excited to finally be able to bring Hire 253 back to the coalition. I'm so excited. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Kelly. Maureen.
So the Housing Committee met yesterday, and we'll meet again in 2 weeks. And so I think we're settling on a couple of immediate issues. One is around the expansion of shared housing options. Shared housing itself, I think we're familiar with. Mark Merrill is the Executive Director of Shared Housing Services, but then looking more broadly at people sharing housing. And there are different terms that folks are using, but basically where you're renting the room. And how could we expand that across the county? What would it take to do that? And how could we ensure that we know Chiquata is working with a group of stakeholders around Tacoma policies and regulations. How do we ensure that those are safe and decent housing options, and that people have their rights as tenants once we get outside of the city limits? And so that's one. The other one is talking about some possibilities of some sort of a collective or collaborative entity out of the smaller organizations that maybe don't want to expand dramatically, but want to sort of bump up their housing level. And then the third is just as a note for everybody that Tacoma Public Utilities has energized its conservation program focused on rental housing. So maybe there's a way for us to tie in I'm thinking probably fairly substantial resources that they're going to bring to the table with our needs for both those, for people who are housed, who are within our framework, people who are below 30% AMI, and whether they're at risk, whether they are safe and stable where they are, or whether they could be housed if we could just get the pieces together. So again, the listserv is on the coalition's website, the meeting information is on the website, and I keep trying to shift more housing information there. Echoing what Lori said earlier, we might be the only county, not just in the state, but in the country, that's actually getting rental assistance out. And so every other houser I know of is talking about rental assistance, getting it out. And it's like the one thing I'm not worried about. And we're going to know there are multiple pipelines of proposed housing development going forward to Pierce County Council for ARPA funding and for the county's budget process. And so we'll have a pretty good idea of what people are planning on, but it still is, like we talked about earlier, is what is it we can acquire that already exists? It's faster, it's cheaper, and it gets people into housing and preserves people in housing. And one of our members, Kimber Starr, is also a realtor, so she's putting together a list for us of what is available out there through her resources. And I just saw Mark nodding madly. And that's where the housing information is. All right. So anyway, join us. We're a fun group.
And you know, you said nice things about Valerie just as she popped into the room. So great timing, Valerie. Do you want to give an update on the rental assistance program?
Sure. I just got off the phone with Representative Kim Schuer's office and gave some just great feedback and lots of conversation about what's going on here in Pierce County. So it always makes me nervous, but it was a great hour. So Pierce County, as of today, our Department of Transportation, Department of Treasury dollars, we are at 57.75% spent. So we are ahead of where our expectations are. So we will be fully at 65% by the requirement of August. So that's great, great news. And then for our state dollars, we're at 53.58%. So we are ahead for both fund sources. And we have actually asked for more money. So we are already contracting the $9 million from the American Rescue Plan funds. We have let the feds know that we are 100% obligated all of our dollars. And we have asked the state for additional dollars. So we've asked for 10 million more of TRAP 1.0. We have also asked for our TRAP 2.0 contract. So we're just moving funds out. Our NOFA, Notice of Funding Availability, is open now. So if you're interested in being a provider, please apply. And our RFP for our new and improved portal is also open. So things are going well. I will put the link back in for our live data that is updated every week, where we track our demographics and all of our information. And we actually look at that every week, just to make sure we're not missing any populations and not missing any geographic locations. And we just keep working through to make sure that we are as approachable as possible. So sorry I was late. Thank you, Maureen, for the kudos as we came in. But it has been a busy week, a very busy week of reporting this week.
Fantastic. So anybody have any questions for Valerie? One I have, Valerie, is that, so you say the dollars are 100% committed, but 53% is like those percentages are the amount of dollars out the door.
Yeah, 53%, 57% checks cut to tenants. And then what the state considers obligated is under contract. So a lot of communities are still having a really hard time contracting their dollars, and we are at full 100% contracted out, and we have enough applications in the portal to just continue. We know we'll be able to spend 100%. So we have notified them of 100% obligation.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations to you and everybody working with you that we're so far ahead of the game.
Yeah, somebody asked me yesterday, they said, but no rental assistance dollars are going out. And I was like, wait. Yes, they are. They are in Pierce County, and other communities are really trying to get them out the door. So patience is key. And then just a public shout out to Tacoma Pro Bono and the Center for Dispute Resolution for being so great in responding. I link them to tenants, landlords all day long, every day, to make sure that we just prevent all the evictions we can. So public shout out to all of their staff, because they are just doing a stand-up job.
Great. All right. So thank you for that, Valerie. We're actually ahead of our agenda, which is a weird thing to have happen. What I did include a little bit of time in the agenda to take another look at the Pierce County Homelessness.org website. So let's do that real quick. And then we'll move on to good of the order announcements and reflections on today. So let me bring up the website. And if somebody can give me a thumbs up that they're seeing that. Perfect. So earlier in the chat, folks were asking about how do they get a hold of Colin? How do I access safe parking? That is actually on the pchomeless.org website. The link you can see here in the green bar, but this is the actual page that has information about the way that the program works how to contact Colin, and how to get into that program. Let me go back to the main page. So I just wanted to do a quick tour here again. You'll see that Garrett has been hard at work and put up information about our recent presentations. We talked through how to access those last week. Essentially, there's keywords for what was covered in the meeting. When you click on those keywords, it takes you to the opportunity to listen to the meeting and how we yammered on for an hour 41 and doing good. And also how you can then access the recording, the chat that happened, and read the full transcript from the meeting. I know Garrett is working. We're working on a system to try to help speed up and make it easier for these to get posted to the website, so that there won't be such gaps. And Garrett also, just so folks are aware, he's let me know how I can add some information to this page as well. But the key thing to look for here is if there is an upcoming meeting, you're going to find it here under the council on the coming meetings and events. And it's not just meetings. Sometimes Garrett has updated this with information like this CMAR wellness event that's happening on August 8th. So you can turn to this for as kind of a calendar, as well as for links to register for each of the committee meetings that take place. And we also had someone ask about how to subscribe to email lists. If you use the listserv link here that's at the top of the page, it'll bring you here, and you can see the list in the yellow section that shows all of the different email lists that exist, including the new Race and Equity Committee list. So that's your opportunity. You just put in your name and email and check which of the email lists you want to receive. Many of you already know this, but if you are overwhelmed by the amount of email that you receive using the main coalition listserv, there is a way to get a daily digest for that. And that's the first option that's listed here as well. And what else would I like to share with you today? I think that's probably about it for right now, unless anybody has any questions. Anybody have any questions? Let me stop my share. All right, not seeing any questions from anybody, so let's shift. Rosemary.
I was just a little pokey getting my hand up there. I was interested a little earlier when Jeffrey was describing that people in the encampments don't know what we're doing, and that many of people in the neighborhoods don't know what we're doing. And I think sometimes we don't know what we're doing. This is a really incredible resource that we have on the webpage. At the same time, communicating by email to some folks isn't how they get their messages. So I know the work of the communication committee. Teresa and Laurie have been leading that work. That's really important to get their messages out. So that's a way to encourage that to happen in various ways. So there are people on the call here who have a lot of experience with other forms of media other than email. It might be that we could develop more approaches. I know there's some work on that. I just want to encourage us to think of other ways we can share the incredible resources we have available in this one form that might be able to be shared in other forms as well.
Thank you, Rosemary, and that's a great point. Not everybody lives in email, so, and especially the folks who we actually do outreach to who are living outside. So, you know, that maybe that's one of the things that either the communication committee or steering committee could discuss in an upcoming meeting, so that we can talk about strategies to make sure folks who are actually trying to help are aware of what the coalition's doing, what the resources are. Any other comments or questions before we move on to items for the good of the order? All right, not hearing any, please do use the chat again if you have additional items you want to share. But I'll open the floor now for anybody who has items that they want the full coalition to know about. but weren't already on today's agenda. So any items for the good of the order, just raise your hand. Josh.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to physically raise my hand. I was looking around for that feature. Okay, well, yeah, I just wanted to update. You guys were asking about the new tiny house village or micro shelter site, I should say. And I heard some comments earlier about people wanting to know more about the programs and wanting, more transparency into them. So we actually have a community advisory committee that meets every month to talk about the Thames site, Tacoma Emergency Micro Shelters, currently located at 60th and McKinley, and moving in around September to 69th and Proctor, as you had mentioned earlier. And it'll be expanding. We're really excited about that. It'll be expanding by 20 tiny houses. So I want to just mention to folks that we have the CAC that meets, and the next meeting is actually a Monday. So right after the weekend, we're meeting it's from 6 to 7:30, and it's over Zoom. These are public meetings, so anybody is interested is welcome to attend. We're also going to be setting up a new CAC for the 60th and McKinley site. So I'm sorry, for the 69th and Proctor site. So if anyone is a neighborhood stakeholder close to the site, they serve at a nonprofit that's close by, work at a business, live close by, or go to a church close by, those kind of things. Please let me know if you're interested in joining the CAC, or if you just want to come to those meetings. You could live anywhere; it doesn't matter. Please join us for those. Again, those are public, and that's an opportunity to learn about how the program is going, the case management services residents are receiving, outcomes like how many residents got into permanent housing, maybe any concerns in the neighborhood, that kind of thing. So a lot of times we have City of Tacoma join those meetings, so it's a chance to hear from them as well. And we have city council members joining these meetings as well. So people take it really seriously, which we're always grateful for. So yeah, please, let me know. I'll put my contact information in the chat. I also want to mention, we're going to have volunteer work parties to set up the new site. We got to get these 20 new tiny houses set up, and then we might need to do some work on the houses that we're moving from the other locations. So please let us know about that. And then lastly, I want to mention that a quick update, we're doing a enhanced shelter. We're partnering with Tacoma, Pierce County, and the city of Lakewood on that to purchase the Comfort Inn. That will be an enhanced shelter serving, it'll provide 120 beds for adults only, and we're going to convert that. So that's going to operate for about 2 years as an enhanced shelter. So our case managers will work with residents to get them into permanent housing, employment, healthcare, any services that they need. They're coming directly from experiencing homelessness. And then the idea is a stepping stone from homelessness to permanent housing, just like with our tiny house micro shelter program. And then we are going to convert that to 80 units after that 2 years is up, 80 units of permanent supportive housing. And we hope to buy that hotel in September and open in November. And I want to thank the city of Tacoma, Pierce County, Lakewood, anyone who's listening on this call. Thank you for your partnership and working with us on this.
Thank you, Josh. And there was a question in the chat about the process of getting people connected to the micro shelter sites. So maybe if you want to answer that.
Sure. So the city of Tacoma's HOT team refers a lot of people, and as well the Comprehensive Life Resources refers people. So those are the two sources, that provide referrals. And if anyone's interested in us connecting, them with one of those resources, please, let me know and I can make that happen.
Thanks, Josh. And the city's HOT team, HOT is the homeless outreach team, is what HOT stands for.
Yeah, acronyms. Yep.
Yep. Teresa, you have your hand up.
So first, it would be great if there is a way for people to connect with, it'd be good to point out how people connect with the places that refer people to you, just as a general thing, instead of somebody having to say, how do I do that? So that'd be a good thing to either post, or maybe we can have a conversation about this, which leads me to, wouldn't it be great to have one of those 5-minute intros for your group where you explain a little bit more about your program, and use the spotlight spot for that? So Josh, I invite you, and I also want to invite in particular anybody who is dealing with trauma directly in the campsites, in the encampments within that. I know there are many organizations that do some piece of that, but Jeffrey and I were talking about the fact that when there's a shooting or there's a tent fire or there's something that is especially traumatic, how are you dealing with that? It'd be good for us to know what you do, if you have recommendations for outreach workers who are not necessarily working for your organization, what maybe some tips on that. So again, another 5-minute spotlight would be great. Let me know. I've got my email posted all over the place, and I would love to hear from you.
Thanks, Teresa. And Julian, you have your hand up.
Thanks, Rob. Can you hear me?
We can.
Can you hear me? Okay, that's too bad. Hi, Julian Wheeler, Chair of the Pierce County Accessible Communities Advisory Committee. First, I wanted just to do a quick shout out to Josh Castle. It's good to see you again, Josh. I like the beard. I think we've seen each other at some fundraisers, but the last time I really worked alongside you was in the 43rd District before I enlisted in the Army in 2011. So, we are connected on Facebook. Good work. Good work. Yeah.
Good to see you too. We were in the Institute for Democratic Future together 11 years ago.
That's right. That's right. And so maybe we'll see each other again on some fundraising circuit or this, for example. But Rob, I wanted to honor the time here. I just reposted information about the ACAC, and I invite people to our meeting. Our next one is September 14th. It's the second Tuesday of each odd numbered month at 9 o'clock in the morning on Zoom. And we're going to try to keep meeting by Zoom or on Zoom for as long as we can, because out of this tragedy of COVID, we learn about how to make things more accessible for people, marginalized populations. Thank you again for continuing to hold these meetings. And if anything, if there is going to be some a return to in-person meetings, I would hope that hybrid remote attendance is still possible. Anyway, our ACAC helps expedite funds for projects that are characterized as accessibility projects. And whether that's a volunteer coming to us, filling out paperwork, or maybe if some item on a proposed budget doesn't make the cut during budget season, that you feel free to come to us. We will love to help you out. We usually make a decision on whether to advance a project to the state level, which is the Accessible Community Subcommittee of the Governor's Committee on Disability Issues and Employment, where they make the final decision. But essentially, we can help expedite funds for your project if there is an accessibility aspect to it. So we're looking for new members, new ideas, and now I got the link also in my chat comments so you could more easily check us out. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Julian. So anyone else with items for the good of the order? All right, so why don't we wrap up today's meeting with any reflections on today's meeting? What went well? What didn't go well? What could be done better? We'd love to hear your feedback. So this is an opportunity for that. And awkward silence is okay too. All right, well, I would like to give everybody a few minutes back in their schedule for the day. So everybody have a safe weekend. I see Teresa with her hand up again though, before we go.
I just wanted to say, we haven't had a chance. This is seeing Garrett here, and he's got his new position. And I think he should make an excuse for himself for jumping ship and going over to the county, even though we're very delighted to have him there.
Jumping ship. I wasn't on a ship, Teresa. There was no ship. I was just swimming. And so now I've got a boat. Yeah, so well, you can all leave. You don't have to stay on my account. But so I started Monday with a temporary position with Pierce County, and I'm project managing or mismanaging, we'll see, the comprehensive plan doing homelessness. So that's you guys know all this, right? But it's the plan to actually get us down to functional zero. And that's kind of a long-term project. And the second one is shelter for everyone by November 1st. So I want all of your comments and ideas and suggestions. So you can hit my coalition email address, or I'll put my new Pierce County email address into the chat. And yeah, looking forward to working on all this stuff. So the goal is that we kind of put all this in motion from the coalition, and I'm just hoping to fulfill our objective of better serving our community. So hopefully from inside the government, I can be effective. But again, we'll see.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Garrett. Thanks for popping in. And with that, we will close today's meeting. If you have an interest in helping us plan for next week's meeting, you can hang on the line. We will, the smaller group of us will be meeting after a short 5-minute break. Have a good weekend, everybody.